Recording in 3, 2, 1. All right. Okay, so here's our, okay, so Indian history, let's be clear here. Indian history starts back at like the dawning of man, right? Like India is one of the oldest countries on the planet. So we are, of course, going to start as soon as white people show up. So we're going to start with the East India Trading Company. East India Trading Company. And the East India Trading Company is a British company. Okay, it's not a country, it's not an army, though it kind of acts like an army in a lot of ways. But it's a company that is British, that is supported by the crown, basically, right? And the East India Trading Company basically travel across Asia, and they take over all these different sections of Asia, and they just establish a business of like plantations or mines, getting whatever they're going to get, like spices or something, right? Spices if it's a plantation, minerals if it's a mine. And then they send them all back to England and get rich, essentially. Okay. They're operating from 1600 to 1857. By the time we get to like the late 1700s, by the time we get to like the 1780s, 1790s, they basically control India. Okay. Now, in really true British fashion, how do you take over an area? How do you administer over something as big as India? Does England ever have a chance to bring enough soldiers in to operate India by itself? Can little itty bitty England ever occupy big giant monster India? No. No. How do you do it? Yash, how do you do it, man?
They use like divide and conquer, right?
Right. So if you're talking, absolutely correct. So in there you put British use divide and conquer, right? So who are you giving money, weapons, and power to?
To a minority group.
Yeah. You always give it to a minority group. So for India, who does that mean?
I'm not sure. Maybe like the Muslims or the rich or.
Okay. You're going to give money, weapons, and power to the Muslims and the Sikhs. Right? The Muslims and the Sikhs. The Muslims and the Sikhs are going to end up being the primary. They're going to end up being like the primary enforcers of the British, right? The British police force, essentially. Okay. If you don't have access to Muslims or Sikhs, then you can use smaller language groups, right? So if you have like a group of like Tamil speakers in a Bengali city, then you give them weapons, money, and power to the smaller language group. Okay. Does that make sense? Right. What you absolutely don't want to do is give money, weapons, and power to the Hindus, right? Way too many Hindus, way too many Hindus, way too much money, weapons, and power, right? That's going to end very, very badly for you, right? So you always have to give it to the minority groups. The East India Trading Company, predictably, is a bad ruler of India. It doesn't give a crap about the Indian people. It just gives a crap about taking things from India, right? Taking crops, taking, mining stuff, taking stuff away from India. But they do one really important good thing in India, and this is education. Okay. They're going to open up they're going to open up some colleges, like a handful of different colleges, but the two that we really care about are these two. All right. So they're both in Calcutta. They're both in Calcutta. Why won't my stupid thing be stupid? Ugh, gross. All right, so they're both in Calcutta, which is on the eastern side of India. Okay, Fort William College. This is going to be a college that I think you guys are going to expect, right? It's going to be a college that is focusing on language. So about half of the college is teaching British people how to speak Asian languages. The other half of the college is teaching Asian people how to speak English. Okay, And this is the primary language college for all of Asia. And so the British are bringing in like Chinese people and Malaysian people and people from all the different parts of Asia, and they're bringing them in here as well. Okay, so it's not just Indians, and so they're teaching white people how to speak these Asian languages. But what I more care about is the other half of the college. The other half of the college is teaching Asians how to speak English. Most of their students are from Calcutta. Do you guys know what language they speak in Calcutta? What's the primary language of Calcutta? No? Nobody? Going once, going twice? Okay. The primary language of Calcutta is Bengali. So it's primarily Bengali. All right, so this matters quite a bit because the Bengalis are going to be used as middle management for the British. Okay, let's zoom in on this other school. This other school is going to be a little bit different. The other school is called the Asiatic Society. Now, the Asiatic Society is a little bit unexpected. Okay, the primary goal of the Asiatic Society is the preservation of Asians' culture. The preservation of Asian culture, specifically the preservation of ancient Indian documents, including ancient Hindu texts like Vedic scripts and stuff. Vedas. A Veda is V-E-D-A, Veda. A Veda is an ancient religious document for the Hindus. Okay, and when I say ancient, I'm talking like 7,000 years ago. We're talking like some of the earliest writing in the world, right? Is these things, and they're all religious stories and parables and stories about the origins of the universe and things that establish the foundations of the Hindu religion of Hinduism. Now, this may seem strange to you, right? You should probably have some questions. Why are the British preserving Indian history, right? That seems very uncolonial to do, right? We're used to thinking of colonialism as destroying the native culture, right? Why can't the Indians preserve their own history? You guys have a thought on that? Manvith, what do you think, man? Why can't the Indians be preserving their own history? Why are the British doing it?
I'm not sure, but I think they might be trying to get on their good side, and they have better resources to protect these scripts. But that I'm not sure.
Okay, the British do have better resources. That is true. The British don't give a crap about getting on the Indians' good side. That's not true. They don't give a crap about that. But they do have the resources. That is true, right? And England isn't just one mind, right? There's a lot of people in England, and some of the people find that they love Indian, right? So just, some people like it, okay? There's another reason, though. These scripts, first of all, are thousands of years old, so just, time and climate has destroyed a lot of these things. But the other thing is Muslims. As the Muslims moved into India, they destroyed these things. Islam prohibits non-monotheistic faiths, right? Islam prohibits things that aren't Islamic. And so it prohibits things like statues. It prohibits things like polytheism. It prohibits things like Hindu gods. And so when the Muslims come in, the Muslims find, wherever they find like libraries of Hindu texts, the Muslims burn the libraries. And the Muslims are trying to destroy the statues and stuff like this. This has been going on for 100 years before the British got there, right? And if it's one thing we know about Indians, man, is that Indians love statues, right? There's statues all over the place, right, in India. Am I wrong, Drew? I am not wrong, right? Indians love statues to the point that Indians will oftentimes put statues on like the dashboards of their cars and stuff like that, right? Like Indians love statues. Am I wrong, Drew? I'm not wrong. Drew, do you have a statue on the dashboard of your car?
My father has one.
I rest my case. Yash, does your family have a statue in their car? Absolutely. How about you, Manvith? See, I'm not wrong. All right, you guys all proved me right. You guys all have statues in your cars, which we're having fun here. I'm not actually making fun of you. I think it's kind of cool. I'm just, I've not got nothing but love for you guys. When I was in Nepal, Nepal is a Hindu country, right? And our bus drivers was driving us around, and I kid you not, the bus driver had 6 statues, 6 different gods on the dashboard of his car, right? And then he also had them like glued to the top of the bus, like on the outside and stuff, and had one on the hood, right? And I asked him, I said, hey, I said, why do you have so many of the statues on your dashboard? And he said, oh, have you looked at the roads in Nepal? He's like, if you drove these roads every day, you'd know that you need as much help as you can get, right? There's all these statues protecting him on the roads of Nepal, right? Anyway, so this is one of these points of conflict between Muslims and Hindus, is that Muslims prohibit all of those Hindu things, right? The Hindu gods and statues, the paintings, the images and stuff like that. So the British have come in and they start to preserve this. Now, this is where we're going to get a little bit tricky here. Do any of you guys know, this is something I don't expect you to know, but it would be really nice if one of you did know this. Do any of you guys know anything about European history, like what started the Renaissance in Europe? As IB students, you wouldn't have encountered it in class. You would have gotten it back in like 7th grade or 6th grade or something, right? But in high school, you wouldn't have gotten it, right? So I'm not, if you don't know, it's fine. But I'm just taking a shot. Did any of you guys take AP European history or anything like that? No? Okay. Let me help you out. Oh yeah, Drew, you know?
I think I don't remember. I remember learning about this in middle school, but like apparently they like rediscovered some old texts or something like that.
Perfect. That's perfect. Nicely done. Good job, middle school, Drew. All right, so the European Renaissance really kicks off when trade opens up between the Arabs and the Europeans for the first time in 100 years. And the Arabs start bringing up texts of like ancient Greek philosophers like Aristotle and Plato and stuff like that, right? And ancient Roman texts, right? Like Caesar and Marcus Aurelius. And as the Arabs bring those up, the Italians get them and they start to read them, and it blows their mind. The Italians are like, oh my God, look at all this old knowledge. Look at all this like stuff from their past. Look at all this great stuff. And it causes within them a rebirth. The word Renaissance means rebirth, right? And so because of that, you get this flourishing of Italian art and philosophy and political reform and science, and you get all these different things going on, right? Okay, I know you guys haven't had European history, so you're just gonna have to trust me that that is how it happened. Well, the Asiatic society has unlocked ancient knowledge and brought back this ancient knowledge, and so what do you expect? A rebirth. Big number C, the Bengali Renaissance. Okay, the Bengali Renaissance. The Bengali Renaissance is a period of time of cultural flourishing in the 19th century. A period of time of cultural flourishing in the 19th century. It includes reforms in politics, religion, culture, politics, religion, culture, and science. It's based out of Calcutta. Which is a Bengali city. So it's based out of Calcutta, and it started by bringing back these ancient texts, right? Because bringing back these ancient texts wakes something up inside of the Indians. The Indians who, at this point, for hundreds of years, had been dominated by the Muslims and by the British. The Indians are now waking up to something new. They're waking up to this ancient Indian spirit, if you will, right? I'm being a little bit poetic with you, but that's what's going on. Okay. All right. So let's give you some names here. Okay. Ram Mohan Roy, right here. This guy is going to be. I'm going to call him the Indian John Locke. He's the Indian John Locke. Ilha, what is John Locke? Who was John Locke? Why is he important?
Not sure.
Oh no. Oh no. Who is not Dhruv but can help Ilha? Dhruv tries to answer every question. Who's John Locke?
Wasn't he like just one of the like Renaissance thinkers, basically?
Oh, you're killing me, Dhruv. Or Ilha. You're killing me, Ilha. What else you got? Who's John Locke? Alex, you got it? Kira?
I know it was like a philosopher, right? But I'm trying to remember what specifically he like did.
You guys are making me cry. All right, Dhruv. Dhruv, can you redeem your friends, please?
He was the one who said those things about how humans have natural born rights and the government only exists to protect those natural born rights.
Yes, you guys live in John Locke's country. John Locke is he's going to be the guy who's going to be the political philosopher. He's going to bring you such things as human rights, natural rights. He's also going to bring you such things as government by the people, the consent of the governed, this little thing called democracy, right? Anyway, Ram Mohan Roy learns English in the British schools reading John Locke. He then translates it into Bengali and starts to spread it around the country. Okay, Ramakrishna, right here. Ramakrishna is going to read all of these ancient texts and he's going to bring about religious reforms. He's going to modernize Hinduism. Now, here's the thing about Hinduism. I love Hinduism. I think it's great. I really, really, really enjoy studying Hinduism. I like it a lot. But Hinduism is, you're going to have to pardon me here, Yash and Dhruv and Manvith. Hinduism is kind of a hot mess in a way, right? There isn't one text, right? No Hindus agree on anything, right? You'll get one Hindu who prays 10 times a day to Ganesha, and then the other Hindu is like, nah, I don't really pray to Ganesha. I pray to, Vishnu or something, right? And then, and you'll have like 3 Hindu temples, and the Hindus will be like, no, I never go into that temple because it's not right. Right? And then the other one goes, no, I don't go into that temple because it's not right. The thing about Hinduism, there's no central authority. There's no central authority and there's no central book, kind of like Christianity, right? Christianity is highly, highly organized, right? Christians are like, hey, shut up, go to this chapter, this verse, you read that chapter, right? Like Christianity is very, very directed, very, very organized in that way. Hinduism really is not, right? Hinduism is not unified. It's one of the things I enjoy about it, but it's also tricky, right? It's tricky to get Hindus to agree on things because it just doesn't, right? It's just not built in, okay? Ramakrishna is trying to unify Hinduism. And he's trying to unify a lot of the philosophic concepts of Hinduism. He's also going to bring us about the idea that you could convert to Hinduism, right? Something that Hindus just wouldn't even think about normally. Okay. Jagadish Chandra Bose. Jagadish Chandra Bose, right here, he's going to be one of the famous Hindu scientists. He's later in the Renaissance, but excuse me. Bose is going to do a bunch of experiments with like electricity and stuff. Some of his experiments he gets from Europeans and brings it over and does it again in India. Some of his experiments get taken by Europeans and they go back home and get credit for it. They get credit for his work. But he's a scientist. Over here, this painting is called Bharat Mata. Bharat Mata. Bharat is the word for India. Bharat is India in most of the Indian languages, in Hindi and in most of the languages. Bharat, right? Anyway, so this is a new style of painting, a new art. Abhinavinath Tagore is the painter. Okay. Rabindranath Tagore is probably the most famous person from the Bengali Renaissance. Okay, he's a poet. And he is going to write a lot of great, wonderful poetry at this time. And he's actually going to win the Nobel Prize for Literature. He's the first brown person to win, and then they proceed to not let any other brown people win for another 60 years after him, when they're like, whoa, hold on, nobody said we're letting brown people win this thing. And then they make sure the whites win for a while. I want to read a little bit of Tagore with you. Let me get here. I forgot to post the document, so I'm going to post it right here. Okay. So here is our poem as soon as it opens up. You guys see the poem on your screen? Okay. All right. So here's a good example of the poem. I want you to read this first poem. In class, we did this as as groups and stuff, but I want to walk through here. Okay. All right. Tyler, can you read it clearly?
Yeah.
Yeah, go.
This is the first one. Okay.
Yep.
Come as you are, tarry not over your toilet. If your braiding has come loose, if the parting of your hair be not straight, if the ribbons of your bodice be not fastened, do not mind. Come as you are, tarry not over your toilet. Come with quick steps over the grass. If your feet are pale with the dew, if your ankles slacken, if pearls drop out of your chain, do not mind. Come with quick steps over the grass. Do you see the clouds wrapping the sky? Flocks of cranes fly up from the further riverbank, and fitful gusts of wind rush over the heaths. The anxious cattle run to their stalls in the village. Do you see the clouds wrapping the sky? In vain, you light your toilet lamp. It flickers and goes out in the wind. Surely, who would know that with lamp back, your eyelids are not touched, for your eyes are darker than the rain clouds. In vain, you light your toilet lamp, and it goes out. Come as you are, tarry not over your toilet. If the wreath is not woven, who cares? If the wrist chain has not been tied, leave it by. The sky is overcast with clouds. It is late. Come as you are, tarry over your toilet.
Thank you. Thank you, Tyler. All right, so let's wrestle with this poetry for a moment. We're going to take a moment, and it's going to be Poetry Corner with Mr. Veenstra. Now, I'm no Mr. Doherty, right? I think we can all agree Mr. Doherty is somewhere around 80% poetry himself. He's about 80% poetry and 15% walking around in the forest, right? And then 5% every other aspect of his life, right? I'm not like that. I'm only about 2% poetry. So what do we think is going on in this poem? My first question for you, who is the woman? What do we know about her? When you have a thought, go ahead and unmute yourself and take a shot. The narrator is talking to a woman, right? I think it's clear. The narrator is talking to a woman. What do we know about her? Tiffany, what do you think? Let's have Tiffany and then Wental. Let's have you guys start us off.
I'm not really sure. Like,
Okay.
I don't really get poetry most of the time, so.
Okay, that's okay. Well, what do you know about the woman?
Um,
All right, we can come back to you, Tiffany. How about you, Wental?
okay, sorry.
Does she worry about a lot of things? Because like the poem is just like telling her not to worry so much about everything.
Okay, all right. She's worrying, right? Okay, I think the narrator is, what is the narrator telling her to do?
Be herself.
Okay, all right. Be yourself, maybe. Yeah, Ilhan?
He's like telling her to not care too much about the external appearance of herself and just come.
All right. Is this a statement telling her to not be vain? Okay, let me try a different question for you. Where is she going?
You want to go see the narrator?
Okay, so the narrator's calling her, saying, "Hey, come with me. Come to me. Come as you are. Come as you are. Come over." Right? And the narrator, what does he want with her? Is this a religious, or I'm sorry, is this like a romantic encounter? Is it a lover calling her over? Or something else? Yash, take a shot, man.
It doesn't seem to be like romantic. I think they're talking about like the clouds. It almost makes it seem as if like a storm is coming or something like that, and that she should come back before the storm hits or something like that.
Okay, yeah. Whenever I see clouds in a poem like this, I always think it's ominous, right? Like something bad is coming. The clouds, you don't usually have clouds meaning good things, not usually, right? Okay, so let's deal with another question here. What's up with the toilet? Right? There's not a lot of poetry about toilets. In this case, it means toilet. There's one thing I need to point out to you, and this is a cultural thing here. We're dealing with 19th century India, so there's no indoor plumbing. Okay, so the toilet is going to be like an outhouse, and it's going to be like a separate building, like in the field away from the homes, where it's like one toilet building shared by a couple of families or something. And Terry, not over your toilet, Terry, the word Terry means like it has a couple of meanings. One of the meaning is like a religious meaning, but I think the meaning that makes the most sense in this case is to linger over something. So what do we think is going on with the toilet? Michael, take a shot at just that very first line. I know. Come as you are, tarry not over your toilet. Just the first line.
He is telling her, let's see.
Like, is she having diarrhea or something? He's like, don't worry about the toilet, Is that what we think is going on, or is it something else? I think
that's a bit too literal too.
Yeah, I think clearly the toilet's got to mean something else, right?
No, but I can't come up with anything beyond that.
All right, Ms. Kammerer, what you got?
Well, like telling her to stay the way she is. Maybe she has like an eating disorder or something. Like she's like throwing up. I don't know.
Okay, all right. Kira, what do you think? Let's move from the toilet a little bit. What about if your braiding isn't done, if your hair is not straight, if the ribbon isn't fastened, right? If the anklets are slackened, if the pearls are dropping, right? Like, what is that meaning?
It's just saying like it doesn't matter if she's not perfect. Like she doesn't have to worry so much. Like it doesn't matter how she looks. She should just come no matter what.
So that does sound romantic to me then, right?
Well, it could also be like a father-daughter relationship or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, so it could be a father-daughter. It could be father-daughter, but like there's a lot of times where, you know, my wife is like getting ready or something and I'm like, "Honey, you look great. Let's go." You know what I mean? Like it could be father-daughter, it could also be romantic. You know, I love my wife the way she is. She doesn't have to put on a bunch of makeup. Right? Okay. I'm putting you guys a little bit on the spot here, right? Because you're reading this and encountering for the first time. The people in class were in groups and they had a time to kind of mull it over and think it through and stuff, right? I'm going to help you out and I'm going to give you the traditional understanding of this poem, okay? The traditional understanding of the poem is that the woman is India. If the woman is India, then what's the narrator? The narrator has urgency, right? Anxiety, urgency. The narrator is like, hey, let's get going. Come on, let's go, let's go. And she's India.
Would the narrator be like Britain? Like they're trying to like keep India like working for them, but also keep them kind of in their place.
So Tiffany, do you think that the narrator, the relationship between the narrator and the woman is a hostile relationship? Or do you think it's a more caring relationship?
I don't think it's hostile. It's kind of like they're saying like keep working for us, but like I don't really know how to explain it. It's not hostile though.
That sounds quite manipulative to me, right?
Yeah.
I think that the relationship between Britain and India is a pretty hostile relationship, at best manipulative and abusive, right?
Yeah.
I don't get that from the narrator and the woman in this poem. I get the impression that the narrator cares about her. Do you guys think I'm wrong? I might be wrong. I'm not Mr. Doherty. I don't know things. All right. The traditional understanding of the poem is that the woman is India and that the narrator is the future. And that the future is calling for India to step forward. Right? Is she eagerly stepping forward? She's not, right? She's making excuses. She's worrying about the ribbon and her anklet and her braid and her hair, and she's worried about all this, right? And Terry not over your toilet, literally, I think he's literally saying, don't worry about all that shit, right? All that stuff is not important. Not important. Your future is waiting for you. Step forward. The reason why we're going into all of this with this Bengali Renaissance, and this is the result here that you need, Rabindranath Tagore is going to go on to become maybe India's most famous poet, maybe, right? He's actually going to end up writing a poem that gets used as the national anthem, Jana Gana Mana, right? That's where the Indians in the group, maybe you guys have heard this before. in Hindi, I would assume, right? This is the translation of it. Tagore, Rabindranath Tagore is going to be responsible he's going to be one of the loudest and clearest voices for Indian nationalism. What you're witnessing is the birth of Indian nationalism. It's the concept of India as a country. India is a country, not just a collection of people that are unrelated to each other. It's very, very easy to point out in India. India is one of the most linguistically diverse areas on the planet, right? One of the most linguistically diverse areas on the planet. It's got 2 official languages, but it has dozens of officially recognized languages. Okay, almost every state of India has a different language, right? India is not unified by language. It is not unified by religion. It is not unified by history in many of its cases. For most of India's 7,000-year history, it has existed as not one country, but as 5 or 6 or 10 countries. Tagore and the Bengali Renaissance is creating a new identity where Muslims and Hindus are both Indian, where Marathis and Tamils and Bengalis and Punjabis are Indian, right? That's the birth of Indian nationalism. And a country can't get its independence if it doesn't have nationalism. Nationalism is a requirement for independence. Okay? Over the next couple of days, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be building this concept of Indian nationalism. Once we build this concept of Indian nationalism over a few class periods, then we start the rebellion. But for now, the nationalism, India isn't a unified place. India is a collection of people, and the only thing they have unifying them is that the British are forcing them to be unified, right? Tagore is giving them a cultural thing to latch onto, a cultural idea to latch onto. And India has a very, very low literacy rate at this time period, right? Like a 20% literacy rate, very, very low, and a massive linguistic diversity, right? So that literacy rate is hard to deal with. And so the result is that poetry is going to carry forth in this movement. People are going to memorize the poems and recite them. Memorize them and recite them. And Indian schools still require students to memorize poems and recite them, right? To this day, it's still very, very common to require that. Okay, are we good? Do we have comments or questions or anything? Okay, so we have nationalism in the form of cultural identity. Next class period, we're going to get nationalism in the form of fighting your enemies. We're going to start shedding some blood next class period, unfortunately. But what are you going to do? You don't get independence by being nice to each other. All right, cool. If you're done, then you're done. Make sure you turn in your test today.